My name is Nancy, 30 years old, and for the past few years, I've lived in constant silence, putting up with a woman who made my life a living hell. My husband passed away a few years ago, and since then, I've been stuck in a house with my mother-in-law, a woman who treated me like nothing more than a burden. She was never kind, never warm. She always found ways to belittle me, criticize me, and make me feel small. But I stayed silent.
Why?
Because I loved my husband, and I couldn't bring myself to hurt him by standing up to his mother. I thought maybe things would get better after his passing, but they didn't. They got worse. The breaking point came one day when I discovered that my mother-in-law had stolen $30,000 from my salary and lost it all in gambling. My heart sank as I looked at the bank statement in disbelief. $30,000 gone.
Just like that.
But I stayed quiet. I didn't say a word. I didn't confront her. I knew that if I did, it would only make matters worse, and I didn't want to live in constant conflict. I thought maybe this was a wake-up call for her, that she would change, that she would stop, but she didn't. She kept on, her ways never improving. That's when I made a decision. I knew that if I didn't do something, she would keep taking advantage of me, of my kindness. I started giving her $10,000 every month, hoping it would stop her from doing something like this again. I thought maybe if I just gave her what she wanted, she'd leave me alone, but that only seemed to make her greedier. Things got worse when I found out that she had forged documents for my house and mortgaged it without my knowledge. When I found out, I was beyond furious. My entire world felt like it was falling apart. I couldn't believe it. My own mother-in-law, doing this behind my back, using my inheritance for her own benefit. I immediately contacted a lawyer. It was time for me to take action, to take control of my own life. With the lawyer's help, I got my house back, and I realized I could no longer stay in a place that felt like a prison. I called an agent, sold the house, and left. I left everything behind. I left her behind. She became homeless, and for a while I felt guilty. But I couldn't go back. I had given her everything I had, and it wasn't enough. She had drained me, physically, emotionally, and financially. Months later, she found me. She came to my new city, begging for forgiveness, apologizing for everything she had done. But I couldn't forgive her. Not after everything. I had spent so many years trying to be good, trying to make peace, and she had repaid me with betrayal. I walked away from her once again, leaving her standing there, in the streets, begging. I knew that I had to protect myself now, to make sure that I would never go back to the life I had left behind. I moved on, started fresh, and began a new life, free from the toxic grip of my past. I finally had the peace I had been craving for so long. And though I knew I could never forget what happened, I was determined to never let it define me. I was finally free. Starting over wasn't easy. I had to rebuild everything from the ground up. I found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, far away from all the chaos I had left behind. The first few weeks were the hardest. I kept looking over my shoulder, wondering when she would show up again, trying to pull me back into the mess she had created. But it didn't happen. Instead, I focused on myself. I spent hours working on my career, something I had put on hold for years because of everything that had been going on in my life. I found a new sense of purpose in my job. I met people who didn't know my story, who didn't judge me based on what had happened. Slowly, I started to feel like I was living again, not just surviving. I also started to make new friends. They were kind, understanding, and they didn't try to take anything from me. It felt strange, at first, to trust people again, but with each passing day, I realized that I didn't have to live in fear anymore. I could be my own person. And then, there were the moments of peace, real peace. When I woke up in the morning, I didn't have to worry about being mistreated or manipulated. I could take a breath and enjoy the silence, knowing it was my own. The world felt a little less heavy. Months went by, and the past, though always a part of me, started to fade into the background. I didn't think about her every day. I didn't feel the weight of her actions constantly on my shoulders. I had taken back control, and that gave me a strength I never knew I had. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, Sipping a cup of tea, I realized something important. I had come so far. The woman I was today was no longer the woman who had silently endured everything for the sake of others. I was stronger, more confident, and had learned the importance of setting boundaries. I didn't need anyone's approval anymore. Not from my mother-in-law, not from anyone. I was my own person now, and that was enough. I had created a new life for myself, and no one could take that away. As the days passed, I found myself smiling more, laughing more, and truly embracing the freedom I had earned. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. I knew that I had made the right decision, and that no matter what happened, I was capable of handling it on my own. I had finally let go of the past, and with that, I was free. As time went on, I began to settle even deeper into this new chapter of my life. There was a quiet satisfaction in the way my days unfolded now, no longer weighed down by guilt, fear, or the shadow of my past. I had made the right choice, but still, there were moments of doubt. Sometimes, late at night, the silence would be interrupted by memories of everything I had endured. But rather than feeling weighed down by them, I learned to acknowledge them as part of my story, not the defining part. One day, I received a letter. At first, my heart skipped a beat. Was it from her? I had no idea what I would do if it was. But as I opened the envelope, I found it was from a lawyer. A legal document outlining an offer to settle a claim. My heart sank. The last thing I wanted was to go back into that mess. It turned out that my mother-in-law, with nowhere else to turn, had tried to sell off some of the belongings I had left behind. Things she thought might still have some value. But the legal documents she forged came back to haunt her. Now, she was facing even bigger consequences. The money she had tried to steal was one thing, but forging documents was a much graver offense. The lawyer's letter explained that she had been trying to file for bankruptcy, and I was listed as one of the creditors, though I had never owed her a thing. It was clear that my mother-in-law had been desperate, and I felt a flicker of sympathy for her, but it quickly passed. She had burned so many bridges that there was no way to rebuild them. I debated whether or not to respond. I could have easily ignored it, moved on with my life, and never looked back. But something inside me, something I didn't even fully understand, made me send a reply. I sent it through my lawyer, confirming that I had no intention of pursuing anything further. I had no need for revenge anymore. I had let go of the anger, and I didn't want to drag myself back into a legal battle I had already won. Months passed without hearing from her. I heard rumors from old neighbors that she was still struggling, trying to make ends meet, wandering from place to place. I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. She had made her own choices, and now she was facing the consequences of those choices. Meanwhile, I kept pushing forward, focusing on my new life, my career, and the friends I had made. And then, something unexpected happened. A friend from work introduced me to a man named David. He was kind, patient, and funny. He had his own past, just like I had mine, and while we were both a little wary of jumping into anything too quickly, there was something special about him. Over time, we grew closer. I began to trust again, to let down my walls little by little. The relationship didn't happen overnight, but when it did, it felt right. I didn't need anyone to complete me anymore. I had already learned to stand on my own. But with David, I found something I hadn't realized I was missing: companionship. Someone to laugh with, to share dreams with, and to build a future with. Life, as it turned out, could still surprise me in the most beautiful ways. The old, angry woman who used to be my mother-in-law had faded into my past, but the lessons I had learned from her about strength, independence, and finding peace stayed with me. Looking back, I could see the entire journey for what it was: a painful, difficult, but ultimately transformative experience. And with each passing day, I grew more confident in the person I had become. I was free, not just from her, but from all the fear and the uncertainty that had once held me back. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't getting revenge, or even getting my house back. It was learning that I didn't need anyone else to define my worth. I could make my own choices, live my own life, and most importantly, I could be happy. And that, I realized, was the most powerful freedom of all. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Leave a comment below, and let us know what you think. Stay strong, stay empowered, and keep moving forward. See you in the next video.